The reason I wanted to make this video today was because I was watching Skepi's video. I think it's called When You Lose Your Spark. And it resonated with me so deeply that I was like, okay, I have some shit to say about this, and I feel like I really need to do it. So he was talking about how he was really struggling with being alone and not having to fill that void with like people or drugs or distractions. Like his soul was kind of forcing him to sit with himself. And he was also talking about how he'd been feeling really down because he hadn't found true love, and how, you know, he didn't just want any love, he wanted something like real, you know, like true love, like true fairy tale, once in a lifetime kind of love. And when I watched this video of his, I was feeling kind of down because I felt like, you know, obviously I'm just starting out and it's really early, but I kind of been feeling like my videos weren't, like they were really underperforming, and it kind of made me think like should I even be doing this? Does anyone care? Is anyone listening? Like, you know, I feel, again, it's really early, and I feel like almost every creator has gone through this at one point or another. So I am like intellectually aware of that, and I'm trying not to let it affect me. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, I am still human and I have emotions and insecurities, and some things affect me, and this was one of them. And I felt like this video kind of came to me at the perfect time because it reminded me like of why I'm doing this. And the reason being is that, you know, I'm not making this video for Leo, but what he said resonated with me so deeply because that used to be me. And I feel like a lot of people are probably dealing with something similar. And it's like, people are suffering and I have the answers. And that's why I'm here, you know, to help people. So it would just be, I don't know, I feel like I would be doing humanity a disservice if I didn't share my knowledge, you know, because that knowledge, I didn't just acquire, I didn't just wake up knowing all of these things. Like, I suffered dearly for them. You know, I made mistakes over and over and over again. I was battered and beaten and kind of almost lost my life more than once, you know, in pursuit of this wisdom and this knowledge. And, you know, it was very costly. And it feels like it would be a waste if I didn't pass that on. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background about me and my situation, and just kind of how I came to know the things that I know. So I was living in LA for over 10 years, and I was in a long-term relationship which had been going downhill for, you know, a while. And it was probably the most devastating breakup that I've ever had, but it was also the one that taught me the most. And in retrospect, I'm really grateful for it. So I was living in LA, and when this relationship ended, I ended up moving back to my hometown and back in with my parents. And I thought I'd only be there a couple months, and I ended up staying 5 years. Yeah, that's crazy, right? But honestly, it ended up being exactly what I needed. I just didn't know it. At the time, it seemed like my world was crumbling and I was failing and everything was going wrong. And I just didn't understand. I felt cosmically betrayed by the universe. And I was an absolute wreck. I was having like full-fledged, like blacking out, can't breathe, panic attacks back to back every single day for months, like 8 months or something insane. Honestly, I don't even know how I survived that. Like, I would go on walks and, my dad would see me freaking out and he would come on walks with me. And honestly, just having I think just like that stability and the love from my family was really what I was missing, because I didn't have that in LA. If you live in a big city, or if you've ever lived in a big city, you know how lonely it can be to be like surrounded by people but still feel alone. And I feel like that's especially true in Los Angeles. I don't know, just something about LA feels very isolating, I guess. But anyway, I had kind of, so being alone and like not finding love and, being alone for the rest of my life was probably like my biggest fear. And I had never dated anyone in my hometown, like not in school, never. It's a very small town, and I just felt like, I don't know, not like in a horrible way, but I just felt like I was really different and I couldn't really relate to anyone that was there, because I just felt like I'm like this free spirit and I'm wild and I'm eccentric, and everyone there is kind of like has like a very small town mentality. And I don't know, I could never find anyone there that I felt, I could see as my partner. And that kind of compacted, because it was like, on top of my life falling apart, now I was somewhere where I didn't think that I could even find love again. And I was kind of stuck in this situation, because financially I wasn't doing well and I couldn't leave. I couldn't afford to. I mean, maybe I could have, but I would have had to work some horrible job that I didn't want to do. And it just felt like what I needed to do at the time for myself, for my well-being. And so I had kind of made peace, not right away. It took me a long time to make peace with the idea that I wasn't going to be able to find someone while I was here. And that could be, I didn't know how long I would be there. And at first it was terrifying. I would, have panic attacks about it. I would cry and scream and, curse at the wind. But eventually and by the way, you know, if it wasn't obvious, I was not good at being alone. And, you know, for my entire life, I think I had been staying in toxic relationships because being with somebody that was mistreating me was better than being alone, because I just couldn't stand to be on my own. I always needed somebody to fill this void inside of me that I had. And being there really forced me to make peace with myself, to make friends with myself. And honestly, now I feel I love being alone. It's like it doesn't matter how much time I have to spend by myself. Like, I'm never gonna get bored. I'm never gonna be sad. I'm not gonna feel lonely, because I enjoy my own company so much. Like, there's so many things that I enjoy doing. You know, I have so many hobbies. I have so many interests. Like, and I have a lot of alone time. I have a lot of time to myself because, you know, my partner works 14 hours a day, and I'm stay-at-home fiancé, so I get a lot of time to myself, and it still feels like if I had more, I, you know, would be fine with that, and I would be able to utilize that time and do things I enjoy and be productive and all of that. But, you know, it wasn't always the case. I used to be miserable in my own company, and, you know, being put in that situation by the universe taught me probably the most valuable lesson that I will ever learn, is how to be on my own. Because once you learn how to be on your own, you're not going to keep people around for the sake of having someone around. You're only going to keep people around if they're adding value to your life. And that, you know, is life-changing for obvious reasons. But anyway, and another thing was, so Jay Shetty said that people have a tendency to overvalue romantic love and undervalue other kinds of love. So, for example, like the love you have for your family or the love you have for your friends, like, you tend to kind of just not understand how much, I don't know, just how valuable it is, because you're spending all of your time thinking about romantic love and finding a partner and blah blah blah, that you just don't see how much value there is in other places. Do you know what I mean? And because I was kind of forced in a situation where I was back home, you know, living with my parents who, you know, love me unconditionally more than anything, and I was able to reconnect with my childhood friends, it almost became less important. Like, romantic love became less important to me because I was getting love from other places, so I didn't feel like so hungry and desperate for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of able to detach myself from it because I was getting love from other places, and, you know, not just other people, but I was getting it from myself. And I don't know at what point I was able to stop caring that much whether I found someone or not. I still wanted that, of course, but I wasn't drowning because of it. I wasn't, you know, losing sleep or losing my peace because I didn't have it. It was just, a bonus. Do you know what I mean? By the way, if you've never read, oh God, what's the name of this book? I think it's called The Missing Piece Meets the Big O, or The Big O Meets the Missing Piece. I don't know, but it's like a perfect analogy for this. It's like a children's story, and it's about this triangle, and it spends its life trying to like wedge itself into other shapes. And the point is that it wants to be able to roll on its own, but it's a triangle, you know, so it has edges and you know, sides, and so it can't. So it's constantly trying to like wedge itself into other pieces so that they can roll together, right? It's kind of weird. You have to read it. But anyway, one day this circle comes along, and the missing piece is like, oh my God, like you're rolling all by yourself. Like, that's so amazing. Can you, like, can I roll with you? And basically the circle is like, the big O is like, no, like you need to be able to do that on your own. Like, even if I wanted to, I can't help you. I'm complete. There's nowhere for you to fit. And so then it leaves, you know, the big O leaves. And then the little triangle, the missing piece, starts trying to roll on its own, right? And at first it's really bad at it. You know, obviously it's just like flopping kind of, and, you know, kind of not getting there. But eventually, you know, from so much practice and trying, its edges start to smooth out, and it, you know, starts looking more and more and more and more like a circle. And eventually it becomes a circle. And then it starts rolling on its own. And then the big O comes back, and it's like, okay, now we can roll together because you are complete as well. And like, that is what you need. If you want to find love, you have to be complete. You have to be able to not need anybody, because until you get there, you're just going to keep attracting people to try to fill a hole inside of you. And, you know, by the way, nobody can do that. No one can fill anything inside you. Nobody can fix you. Nobody can save you. It's just, you know, they can distract you for the time being. But if you're not complete, you're never going to be able to have a full, healthy relationship. Like, you're always going to be leaning on someone else to take care of your emotional needs. If you need to be able to do that yourself, you know what I mean? Because that's too much pressure for anyone. So anyway, I digress a bit, but again, I had just kind of come to peace with the idea that I just wasn't going to meet anyone while I was in my hometown, you know, because, you know, I just wasn't. And, you know, at some point I just accepted that, and it was okay. And when I tell you that as soon as you stop looking for something, it falls on your lap like this. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're, like, you are always in the right place to receive what you need, even if it seems like it's a million miles off, because God and the universe really does work in mysterious ways. So the way that I met my fiancé, who I'm marrying in 3 weeks, was, he was in the Air Force, and he was deployed in my hometown, and I didn't even know that there was a I don't know what it's called, like an Air Force, like a military base where I lived. I had no idea, because I'd spent most of my adult life in LA, not, not living in my hometown. And apparently, all the military guys, they come here in the summer, or go there in the summer. And one day I was out with my friends at a bar, and I'd never really gone out to bars in my hometown either, because like I said, I'd spent most of my adult life in LA, so I'd never really gone out in my hometown. And then my best friend was like, oh yeah, like all the military guys are here, blah blah blah. And I was like, what are you talking about? What military guys? He was like, yeah, they come here in the summer, like they're always here and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, okay, well that's crazy, I didn't know that. And that is where I met my future husband. And it was, it felt like it wasn't supposed to happen, because it was like I wasn't supposed to meet someone in my hometown, you know what I mean? But because it was like somebody from the outside coming in, in like the craziest random circumstances, because I live, like, my hometown is just like this little town in the middle of nowhere. Nobody ever goes there for anything. So the fact that there was like this military base, and there was like, soldiers coming there, was like, I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to meet anyone there, but the universe had put me exactly where I needed to be. And I can't tell you how many times I like cursed my life because I was stuck and failing and just feeling horrible about myself, and losing hope that I would ever find a partner while I was there. And it turned out that I was exactly where I needed to be. I just didn't know it, but I don't think I would have gotten that if I hadn't learned, one, how to be alone, and two, kind of made peace with the idea of like because I knew that I wasn't gonna meet anyone, I just had to be okay on my own. And that's not something that I'd ever been able to do in my life. Like, it was such a unique set of circumstances. I would have never been able to let go that way in LA, because obviously there's so many people, there's so many candidates, like there's so many people. It feels like, okay, well, I'm gonna meet someone because it's just a numbers game. But back in my hometown, it was like, there's no one here for me, and whether I like it or not, like, I have to make peace with that. And I did. And I really believe that that was the reason that I was able to find the love of my life. And it is kind of scary to say, and like knock on wood, I believe that I have found once in a lifetime true fairy tale happily ever after love. Like, if this isn't real love, then I don't believe in it, because I just don't think that it gets any better than this. And it's not because of how much I love him. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's a common misconception that how much you love someone is indicative of like how right they are for you. Like, you can love the shit out of someone, and they can turn around and betray you, or you know, not feel the same way. So it's like loving someone is almost a given, but the reason that it feels different is because I feel that love coming from him. I feel like he feels the same way, and I trust him blindly, like with my life, and I have never felt that way about anyone. And honestly, I don't think I will ever feel this way about someone again. I think that if this isn't real, I I don't think there's a point in trying anymore, because it just, honestly, like, this is it. You know what I mean? And that's really terrifying to say, but it's true, you know? So anyway, yeah, I didn't, again, make this video for Leo, but I feel like there are a lot of people who are in a similar circumstance, and I just wanted to, you know, kind of share my journey and, you know, the things that happened to me and the things that I did, which ultimately I believe resulted in me finding the love of my life. And I hope that this resonated with you, and that it can be somewhat of a guide, you know, to moving closer to that goal. Let me know if you found this helpful. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say today. And if you got to the end of the video, thank you. And yeah, I will see you next time.